to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We will start with the roll call. If everyone could introduce themselves, starting from my right.
Jane Samard, Business Administrator.
Joe Crawford, Assistant Superintendent.
Michael Thiel, School Board Chair.
Jen Thoreau, School Board Vice Chair.
Jamie Carew, School Board.
Jenna Paradise, School Board Secretary.
Karen Rand, School Board.
Jason McLeod, School Board.
Moshe Graves, next Charter School Representative.
Thank you, everybody. You may have noticed that Mike is not here tonight. He is a speaker at a superintendent's conference down in Washington, and Brenda is not here tonight. She had a last-minute family issue come up. So before we get started on the agenda, I'd like to take a moment to remember Officer Brian Landry, a 23-year veteran of the Derry Police Department who passed away on October 20th. Officer Landry spent the last 9 years of his career serving as a school resource officer, first at Gilbert H. Hood and West Running Brook Middle Schools, and for the last 7 years at Pinkerton Academy. When not on patrol, Officer Landry served as a volunteer coach for the Unified Basketball team. Officer Landry will be remembered by both staff and students for his welcoming presence and positive influence on the school community. Please join me in a moment of silence to remember Officer Brian Landry. Thank you. Our first order of business tonight will be the consent agenda. For tonight, we have the public meeting minutes of October 14th, 2025, approval of the following nominations: Carol Raza, Early Childhood Special Education Teacher, Derry Early Education Program; Olivia Taplin, 8th grade math teacher, Gilbert H. Hood Middle School; and approval of the manifest in the amount of $2,202,606.46, of which $1,229,043.98 is general payroll and $983,562.48 is general expense. Do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
So moved.
First by Jason.
Second.
Second by Jen. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 6-0. We have no presentations tonight, so we'll move on to delegations and individuals. At this time, residents of Derry, parents of currently enrolled Derry students, and employees of the district may address the school board on matters that pertain only to school and district business for a period of time not to exceed 3 minutes per person. As a reminder, questions cannot be answered in real time. If you would like to speak, please come up to the microphone at this time and state your name and address for the record. All right, I am not seeing anyone come to the microphone, so we'll move on with the meeting. However, the public comment period will remain open until 7:02 p.m. If you wish to speak prior to that time, approach the microphone and I will recognize you at the next break in the agenda. Our next item will be student member updates. We have no Pinkerton Academy update tonight. Anthony isn't with us, but I did want to give congratulations to the Pinkerton boys and girls cross-country teams who both won their state championship over the weekend. We do have our new member from Next Charter School here with us tonight, Moshe Graves. Moshe, welcome, and you can go ahead with your update.
The expansion construction is going smoothly and should wrap up in about 4 weeks. We had the PSAT today for 10th and 11th grade students, which also went smoothly. Recently, we have had a play at Misery at the Manchester Repertory Theater. They got to choose between that and a art walk in Alnoba. And upcoming, we have a tour in Keene State College on the 30th. And that's it.
Great, thank you. Anyone have any questions for Moshe?
Did you go see Misery?
I didn't. I had driver's ed that day, unfortunately.
Ah, bummer.
All right, well, thank you again, and we're looking forward to your updates moving forward. Next item on the agenda is deliberations. We have one item, a board policy up for its second reading. The policy in question is Policy CH, Policy Implementation. Mr. Flynn introduced this for a first read at our last meeting. Joe, did you want to add anything before I call for a vote?
Not necessarily. It's a pretty short policy. So the original policy was last updated in 2013. So we discussed it at the previous meeting. It's, in my mind, a simplification of the existing policy. So I don't have any new information since we last discussed it.
All right. In that case, I will take a motion to adopt policy CH as presented.
So moved.
First by Jason,
Second.
second by Jenna. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Next item on the agenda is administration reports. Jane, you're up.
Okay, I've included in your board packet the financial update for the month of October that was prepared last week. A couple of highlights to mention. Wanted to take a look at the special education costs, and while I bring your attention to the out-of-district areas where we may see some increases in or being over budget in some of our out-of-district placements, as well as our contracted service providers, I did make sure that I made notes in the presentation that we have federal funds that will be covering portions of the contracted service providers. And also, some of the contracted service providers are because we've been unable to fill some of our staffing positions. For example, speech language pathologist or psychologist positions. So those are being covered through contracted services. So while we are underspending somewhere in a salary line item, it's overspending in contracted services. But again, we just had our grants approved, so we'll start doing internal journal entries to transfer funds from federal to general fund. So those numbers will change in your next budget report. Again, I know that Paula is, and I think you had 2 nominations tonight. Paula is working on still trying to fill any of our open positions in the district, so I think we're doing really well there. And also a note on the transportation. Right now we do have, it's difficult to find out-of-district placements, and some of them are just a greater distance than some of our closer placements where they may have openings. We have additional transportation costs, as well as we have increased costs for homeless transportation. And also, I wanted to highlight, I speak to David Clapp multiple times a week, and he gave me an update on the interest that we're receiving on our, not only our bond, but our business account. And normally we've been using Citizens for our sweep investment account, and we actually just open up an additional account with PDIP, the public deposit pool, because the interest rate's a little bit higher. So we will hopefully be seeing an increase in our interest revenue due to that. Sorry. And so to date, we have received $127,000 in our bond account for interest since the month of July. And for the Citizens General, it was about $19,000. We hadn't done the bank reconciliation for that account yet, so it will be more in the next month. But right now, the bond investment account is doing really well with the funds. We also had only 2 expenses for the capital bond. We had our bond counsel bill that was for all the work that they did prior to attaining the bond and all of the work for the summer. That was $12,450. And then there was just a minor remaining bill for some of the engineering, which was only $57.82. We're going to anticipate having additional engineering costs moving forward because we're obviously working on the South Range exterior project. So those costs will start coming in, as well as hopefully we'll start moving forward with Honeywell pretty soon. And I also have been working with Christina Lebelzik on our free and reduced. You know, I try to mention at every board meeting for families that at any time during the year you can apply for free and reduced. Maybe your family situation changed, maybe someone's had become unemployed, or a reduction in hours at your job, or additional family members are living in your home. Please reach out to your child's kitchen manager or Christina Lebelzik. She's our director of child nutrition, and she's located at West Running Brook School. She's more than happy to help people fill out the application online or in person, or talk them through it over the phone. We are down a number of applications from last year. However, I think it was the last board meeting when I talked about that they had to have it in by a certain date or they come off of. So she only has 15 families that did not reapply for the free and reduced. So within that time period, they got 70 of them to at least respond and apply. Doesn't mean that they qualify, but at least they at least tried to reapply. So we encourage families to do that, and there are obviously multiple benefits. Number one, to support our families, and number two, those numbers for free and reduced directly correlate to funds that we receive for federal funds as well as adequacy. And I also included the by school numbers of free and reduced in a separate attachment if you want to take a look at that. Any questions on that?
Yeah, I have a question, Jane.
Sure.
Go ahead. You mentioned something about federal funding to help offset the special ed costs. Do you have an idea on the figure?
I would say probably, I think we're looking maybe 400,000. Yes.
My question, my question was the services or the positions that haven't been filled that are being contracted right now. How long have those positions been open? And are we just not seeing people come forward to apply for them, or are they just not qualified when they're coming to apply? What is where is that vacuum?
Not sure if Joe might be better to answer that question.
Yeah, I mean, most of these positions have been open for multiple years. So the area of probably greatest need is school psychologists. So we have had, I think it is 3 open school psychologist positions for a number of years now. Additionally, we have some speech and language pathologist positions. These are highly specialized positions that are incredibly difficult to fill. We also still have some special education teacher positions, which are not as difficult, but are becoming more and more difficult to fill. So speech and language and school psychologists, we have to contract out for with agencies because the services, the assessments are required under federal law through students' IEPs. I think it's a nationwide issue with school psychologists. I know that psychiatrists are also another specialty area in medicine that are really hard to find. So
are we not getting the applications at all? There's
Correct.
just no traffic.
No traffic.
Okay.
I think, that's not a unique to Derry problem either. I mean, that's all over the place. I mean, as you said, these positions are so highly specialized. I mean, and if a speech language pathologist showed up at the office tomorrow, you'd hire them in a second because it's far cheaper to have these people on staff than it is to have to contract out the services.
It is, and their education, the requirements in terms of their training and education are pretty high, and the licensure is also slightly different. So speech and language pathologists are not even licensed through the New Hampshire Department of Ed. They have a separate licensing agency because of the specifics of what is required, and there are many hours of training that they have to do in order to get that license. So it's a hard spot. School psychologists also, there's a lot of requirements for the licensure and the degree. So no, we aren't getting the applications.
Okay. And my other question was just in regards to the free and reduced lunch numbers. I remember you saying at a certain time that Christina was doing all the callbacks, that she was personally calling all the numbers. And so are you saying they're only down to 15 people who haven't returned the call, and that just kind of they were ghosted?
Yes, who haven't been reached or reapplied.
Okay. Well, that's pretty good numbers, I guess, compared to all that. She put in a lot of hours calling those out. So 15 is not too bad. Okay.
They put in a lot of hours, and they're trying to, I think the video was helpful. Christina has gone to open houses. I think she's always looking at strategies to get more. One of the areas we looked at today is some of the incoming kindergartners, the parents, they put their other children on the free and reduced application. And so we think we have an area where we're going to focus a little bit more on kindergarten, even this year. And next year, try to go to some of the open houses for kindergarten and try to catch that group. We were tracking where our eighth graders went and where some of our numbers could have gone. But we did have a pretty good bubble of eighth graders who have graduated, who quite a number of them we had on free and reduced. So she's also going to be working with Pinkerton to see if they can work harder to get word out to parents to fill out those applications as well for Pinkerton, because they're separate. But at Next Charter School, families who are at Next Charter School would apply through us.
And the kids, there's no application for anyone at Deep because there's not lunch provided, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. But they would be, if the Deep student has a family member, have other students in the schools, parents would still list the Deep child, because you want to list everybody living in your household. That actually goes towards your qualification.
Okay, thanks.
We're seeing a lot of doubling up when I see the applications.
So I have a question about, so I'm looking at the Business Administrator Monthly Financial Report for October. And at the top, it says that we have 33 more students than budgeted for Pinkerton. But at the very bottom, it's under number 1, it says that there are 40 students over.
Yes, and Pinkerton is also an area where we are doing a deep dive on the billing and trying to go through all of our 8th graders who graduated and see where the difference is on some of those students. So we actually were working on that again today. Unfortunately, that was sort of a timing piece when we ran one report to the other. So it's between 33 and 42, and we looked at other students who have left prior to when students have not shown up for school. Maybe they've transferred to another district and haven't turned in their records requests. So, they go through and reduce the number of students off of the invoice. But we do have more students than were budgeted. And historically, I keep spreadsheets of all of our enrollments, what we've budgeted, what the numbers are coming in. There are 3 billing periods for Pinkerton, October, February, and April. So they're pre-billing you for your first one. And when we look historically, all the way back to years 17-18, school year 17-18, there's always been less students than we've budgeted, and I think that that's why the board has taken the methodology of reducing the number of projections. This year, we just have more students than budgeted at this time. But typically, historically, as the year goes on, the number of students enrolled decreases for a variety of reasons. They may transfer to the high set, which is like a GED program. They may move out of the district. They may finish their credits early. There's a variety of reasons why that number will go down.
I don't remember the exact number, but I feel like that number is right around where we determined as part of the budget process last year. It was 30 or 40. I mean, you might remember,
It was
Joe,
40,
but
yes.
I feel like it was right at that number that we made the decision, or with the fiscal advisory last year, to reduce that in order to hopefully try to hedge a bet and save a little bit of money and cut somewhere. But
Sure. And
sometimes the
that's
ball
why we're
bounces
looking.
one way and sometimes it bounces another,
Right. And this year, that's why we're going to compare our 8th graders who graduated in June and see where the kids coming from in any one of the grade levels. So.
Right.
So you're saying it's a number then between 33 and 40, and which one is it closer to at this point? Because I don't know which one has been more updated.
Yeah, it's closer to 40.
Okay.
Yeah. And again, we're going to be tracking our monthly enrollment that they provide to us, and then we'll know in their February billing where we stand, but we're going to be watching it every month, the enrollment.
Something to be mindful of as we, move into the budget for this year. And something I've been thinking about myself is the methodology of how many students end up at Pinkerton as simple, as it used to be. It used to be your middle schoolers move up, and that's it. Now, you could have kids at charter schools, you could have kids on EFAs, kids who are homeschooled who are not on your radar, right. And 9th grade comes along and they show up at Pinkerton.
And so that's why we're going to do the comparison from our 8th graders. Also, resource is actually, we have 24 less students with resource. And if you remember, we reduced the budget of number of resource. So it's, you know, there's a ton of historical data. If I looked at the historical data, is there a rhyme or reason for each year? It really fluctuates. You had COVID, so the numbers were different. And so I think that we're just going to have to take a look at that prior to our final budget numbers when the budget comes in.
I have one more question, sorry.
Sure.
So this report is just from the beginning of the year until now, right? Till October?
From July 1 until,
Okay.
yes.
So like there's a possibility that throughout the year, these numbers will start to balance out?
Sure, a lot of areas. Like I said, the transfers, because the project just got approved in federal through IDEA, the special education grant. Because it just recently got approved, we haven't done the journal entries, so those wouldn't be reflected in here, where the charges and contracted service providers, like Joe mentioned, some of them psychologists, speech language, those aren't reflected in those numbers going into federal yet. So next month you'll see that, because we'll be doing the transfers probably within another week. Yeah, you're welcome.
All right, no more questions?
Any other questions?
All right, before we move on to the next item, Mr. Tripp.
All right. Well, I'm here. Mr. Sorry, didn't notice.
Good evening. Richard Tripp, 44 Wyndham Road. I like that you extend the public comment until after we've had some reports so that we have something to talk about. Now, Jane, you mentioned that the bond investment is, it got it like $127,000 this. Now, what period was that for? Well, I know you can't answer that, but maybe next time.
Feel free to ask your questions, and if you guys want to chat afterward.
Okay, but I was just wondering, I believe I remember last year you mentioned that the first capital, the first, the bond payments would only be interest until like February. So right now, I would assume that we should be, somewhat even on the cost of the bond, and that we really won't be pulling money from the school until next February, when you start paying interest and principal. So have we made any positive have we gotten any has the interest paid on the bond to the bond people exceeded the interest that we're getting from the from loaning other people our money? The other thing that I want to talk about is you said that we got approximately $400,000 from the federal government. Is that covering cost right now, or is it are we once again on a negative side? So that we have some idea where we are in spending as opposed to revenue. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Jane, did you want to address any of that?
I think it's an easy one to address. The bond interest is the first payment is interest only, and that is going to happen in February. and then next year will be principal and interest. So one payment for interest this year, and that is part of the general fund budget. So that was part of the regular budget, and in the last couple months, if we're at 127,000, yes, the revenue would exceed the cost of the interest at that time. And to address the $400,000 grant, that's an IDEA grant, which is special education. That's a grant that we receive every year. So it's not an additional revenue, it's an existing revenue. We're just moving where the expenses are. We're transferring money into it. So it's not a new grant.
All right. Thank you, Jane. Next up is going to be the superintendent update with Mike out tonight. Joe will be providing it.
Okay, very brief. Just wanted to, as the chair explained, our superintendent is at a conference along with Kim Conant, presenting, speaking. Actually, they're probably flying in the air right now, hopefully. But it's a great opportunity to go and work with others from around the country. The only thing that I really wanted to follow up on is we had our first fiscal advisory committee meeting last week, and we sort of rolled out a new budgeting process where members of the board and fiscal advisory committee heard from principals and directors in the district regarding expense items that they would like to see in the budget. That's not the way we've done it in the past, but I think it was really informative for me, even as an insider, being able to hear from each of those individuals. We're going to be spending some time over the next week or so kind of refining those lists with principals and directors, understanding that there has to be some level of prioritization for the items on those lists. So we're working on that. We encourage members of the Fiscal Advisory Committee to please continue to send us and board members questions. If you send them to Jane, Mike, and I, we will kind of compile those and start getting some information back to you. The next step of the process is in some ways easier because it's a little bit more fixed, and in some ways harder because it's the bigger portion of the budget. We'll be presenting some data on staffing, salaries, benefits, all that at the next Fiscal Advisory Committee meeting, which is this upcoming Tuesday. As Jane kind of highlighted a little bit, another big piece of the budget is Pinkerton enrollment. So we've been working on it together. Jane and I spent a while on it today. She spent much more time than I did, but looking at historical enrollments. So we'll be coming to you with some proposed enrollment projections for Pinkerton Academy. Although we won't know the Pinkerton tuition rate until sometime in late November, early December, I think it's important that we wrap our heads around just how many students we should project to go to Pinkerton. That's all I have for Fiscal Advisory Committee info. I just wanted to make sure it's high. I'm sure it's already on all of your radars, but also the public as well. On a lighter note, last Friday, I think all 4 of our elementary schools held some Halloween-type activities outside. I heard a lot of really positive things from kids and teachers and administrators. Was not able to attend myself, but I talked with Dave Brown about it earlier this week, and he was really proud of the work that his staff and PTA especially put on at Barca. That's all I have for now. I don't know if anybody has any questions.
Thanks, Joe.
I thought the first Fiscal Advisory Committee went really well. I was happy to see the building principals being brought into the discussion. I thought it was helpful for everyone to see what the specific needs are at each building. So yeah, you gave us lots of information to absorb. And again, I'd reiterate, as Joe said, if there's any questions you may have, any materials you need to prepare for the next meeting, make sure you're reaching out to Mike, Joe, and Jane. And it goes to the committee members as well. I see we have our entire audience, I think, out here is Fiscal Advisory Committee members. And if you're watching at home, definitely get those questions into these guys. All right. Next item will be committee reports. We'll start with the policy committee. Again, with Mike and Brenda not here tonight, Joe is going to take care of some first reads.
Sure. So there are 4 policies in the packet that are here for first read. I want to talk. There are a couple of policies where there are some substantive changes that we should make sure we address. So policy DJE is a bidding process policy. The primary change here that I think is of note is that currently our policy for bidding procedures requires all contracts in the amount of $5,000 or more to go out to bid. That was last reviewed here in 2013. It's actually based on a policy from New Hampshire school boards that is more than 20 years old. And so the policy committee has reviewed that and made some adjustments to that number. So there's now this tiered system in the new policy that you see where contracts in excess of $75,000 or more follow a more strict competitive bidding process. And then there's kind of a mid-range where these $25,000 to just up to $75,000 will be made in the open market based on quotes, whenever possible, competitive quotes and prices. And then purchases less than $25,000 may be made by the superintendent based on an understanding of the market. So those are the biggest changes to that policy. You want me to keep going, or do you want to stop with questions?
I had a quick question about that one. I think it's just a language thing because in the verbiage it says at least 3, and I think that there was a time not too long ago that we couldn't even get 3 people to come in. So I think in there it needs to say something, at least 3 whenever possible, or that, because if it's in there as at least 3, what happens when we don't get 3 bids?
Yeah, I agree. So in the first section about $75,000, it does say when feasible. And in the next section, it does say when possible.
Okay.
So I'm hoping that language is enough, but you're 100% correct. Jane can speak to it in much more detail than I can, but I've been in the room when we've been sort of sad to see that there are so few people bidding on projects. Now, some of these big projects are very highly specialized. We were really fortunate to work closely with Gail through some engineering work. There aren't a lot of firms that do the work that Gail does, but yeah, so I agree that whenever possible, we want 3 or more bids. I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
No, that's exactly right. Yep. Okay, thanks. That's all.
The next policy on this list is staff conduct with students. This looks to me to be, if any, fairly minor changes. I wasn't part of the policy committee meeting that kind of reviewed this policy, but it is our existing policy has not been reviewed since 2014. So I think the committee just kind of went through and made some pretty minor changes. The next policy on this list is the homework policy, IKB. So there are some pretty substantive changes to this policy. The existing policy, which was originally, I think, from 2006, but had been revised during COVID or right around COVID in 2020. The existing policy is pretty bulleted with lots of details that the policy committee has kind of taken a closer look and refined this policy to be a little bit more open-ended. And what this new policy recommendation requires is that teachers communicate a clear policy for their classroom about homework. So how is homework assigned? How is it accessed by parents? When is it due? How is it graded? So teachers need to issue in this new policy, a written classroom homework policy. The final policy on this list is BEDG, which is about minutes. So this policy takes into account the change in state law that now requires that the name of the person who produced or prepared the minutes is recorded on the minutes, and the start and end times of the meeting are recorded in the meeting minutes. Although that often happens in many of our minutes, the state law just changed to require it, and so I think it makes sense that our policy reflects kind of the change in RSA. Any questions?
I'll just comment that I'm happy to see the change in the homework policy. because I think it's a little bit more open-ended, provides more autonomy to the teachers in the district, and gives them the power to choose, so to speak. So I thought that was a good thing.
All right, not hearing any more questions, so these policies will come up for a second reading and a vote at our next meeting on November 13th. And public comment on these policies would be welcome at that meeting during delegations and individuals. Next up will be Jamie and an update from the Communications Committee.
All right. I wasn't ready, sorry. Okay, so we had a communications committee meeting back on the 17th, and we talked about the new quarterly school board newsletter that's coming out on Thursday. It's going to feature updates from all the school board committees in a simplified, easy-to-read format. It's going to be available on the Derry School website, social media, LinkedIn, Parents Square, and there's also going to be printed copies posted various locations around town that will have a like a QR code on them that you can scan, and then you can receive automatically the newsletters. They'll just be emailed to you. And also we talked about changes to the district website. So Dr. Dancy did a lot of work. He showed us what it looked like then, and it was really cool, and it just went live a couple days ago. So I encourage everyone to go check out the new school board tab on the district site. There's a couple of new things on there, some new features. You can just click one button and watch previous recordings of school board meetings. It's really cool. And there's a new tab called School Board Meetings at a Glance, and it just gives you like a brief summary of the most important highlights from recent meetings, and it's all right there, convenient at your fingertips. It's really cool. So yeah, thank you, Dr. Dancy. Lots of hard work, and it looks really good.
Thank you, Jamie. Yeah, sounds like there's some productive work coming out of the committee, and I'm looking forward to seeing the newsletter get up and running. Finally, we have Jen with an update from the Curriculum and Assessment Committee.
Okay, the Curriculum Committee met last on Thursday, October 16th. During that meeting, we had two main topics of discussion. The first was a timeline for two of the subcommittee's year-long goals. The first goal timeline that was presented was a 3-year rolling review schedule for all curriculum areas. And the second timeline that was presented was for publishing public-facing guides for grade level expectations and student assessment practices in the district. These are two goals that the school board have put together along with Mike, so they address both those goals concurrently. I want to thank Kim Conant, the Director of Curriculum, for providing the committee these roadmaps for the work that the committee is going to be accomplishing over the next several months. The timeline really clearly spells out month to month what the goals will be over this academic year. So that was the first topic of discussion. The second topic of the discussion was an overview of the English language arts curriculum in the district from K to 8. From here on out, I will refer to English language arts as ELA.
We won't charge you.
Ms. Conant provided a comprehensive overview of the ELA curriculum in the district, including materials provided to teachers at all grade levels and changes that have most recently happened to the district over the past couple of years, because there have been some significant changes. For those who are just tuning into school board meeting or haven't been watching the past couple of meetings, Kim and I have been co-chairing this committee, and I asked her a couple months ago if she wouldn't mind providing a systematic overview of all curriculum areas so that the committee members would have a thorough understanding of what's being presented throughout the district for curriculum. Particularly on the board member side, I think that really helpful for us to understand the materials that are being used in the district, where curriculum investments are being made, and what weaknesses or holes or gaps we should be looking forward to, particularly from a budget perspective. So that systematic overview is continuing to happen. Again, the ELA portion of that happened at the last meeting. The next meeting will be on Thursday, November 6th at 10 a.m. at the SAU office. As always, you can find agendas, meeting minutes on the SAU website under the new school board section of the website.
Thank you, Jen. Questions? All right. Next item will be FYIs and member updates. I have a few things to mention. We received the October 1st enrollment report in the board packet. Did anyone have any questions or comments regarding that? I thought this was an interesting enrollment report again to see at the beginning of the year, and that we're continuing to see declines all across grade levels. The incoming classes are still continuing to be smaller than the ones that are moving up. So looking at the sheet, we're down about 100 students in K-8 from this time last year, if I'm reading it correctly, and we're also down about 50 students at Pinkerton. So, even at Pinkerton, we're down, even though we, flew a little close to the sun with the estimates. Second thing, you may have seen a message go out on Parent Square regarding parent or guardian volunteers for the Start Time Task Force. The central office is looking for 4 volunteers to serve on the task force, 1 from each level, elementary, intermediate, middle, and high school. You can sign up using the form provided in the message by tomorrow, Wednesday the 29th. Applicants will be selected at random and notified by November 1st if they have been selected. And finally, I wanted to mention that the board was at Pinkerton Academy last Thursday night for a Ascending Towns meeting. If you're not aware, as part of the Ascending Towns agreements with Pinkerton, they host 3 meetings per year with the board members and the administrators from the Ascending Towns. And we also meet with the Board of Trustees. There's always an excellent meal served by Pinkerton's culinary students. There was a few presentations, one on AI and one on alternative learning. We received some updates from Dr. Powers on what's going on over at Pinkerton, and it's also a chance to hear from our counterparts in the other Ascending Towns as to what's going on in their districts. That's all I have from the last 2 weeks. Does anyone else have any updates?
I do. Mrs. Willis asked that I would let you guys know that she put a box for the veterans cards down in the lobby of the Municipal Center, and it'll be picked up on November 10th.
Great.
Do you want to talk about your delegate?
Yeah, also, I guess it's a good time, right? So I did go to the delegate assembly this past Saturday, and I was able to vote according to the school board and what they wanted, except for one I abstained from, just so you know, because I wasn't sure what to do. So the Hooksett School Board actually submitted a proposal about changing the amount of votes to get something passed. Well, while we were there, everybody got up and said what they had to say, and they changed the wording of it. So they put SBA supports legislation that would allow for a lower voter legislative body thresholds to approve bonds. And they changed that wording to say, NHSBA supports legislation that would allow a simple majority to approve bonds. I abstained from voting on that because I wasn't sure how all you guys felt about that. And it totally changed the entire wording of it.
Always best if there's any question to abstain. So
There you go.
all right.
Ask you a question?
Sure.
So they voted there, and did it pass?
The motion passed, yes.
Cool. Thank you.
I have an update, I suppose. I had the pleasure of being a chaperone for the Easter Memorial Elementary School State House visit last Tuesday. I was there as mom Jen, not school board member Jen. I have a 4th grader at EDMES, but it was a really great day at the State House with the 4th graders. I want to be sure to thank Representative Tripp, Representative Kasakoris, and Representative Patusik for meeting us there. They provided a tour with us and answered all of the 4th graders' extensive questions about what it's like to serve as a representative, about what the civic process is like. It was a really great morning and a great afternoon, and I really enjoyed being part of it. So, thank you.
All right, no more updates? Okay, our upcoming meeting schedule. A final reminder that the second meeting of the Fiscal Advisory Committee will take place on Tuesday, November 4th, 6:30 p.m. in the West Running Brook Cafeteria. Our next 2 regular board meetings, this is where the schedule gets interesting with the November holidays. The first meeting of November will be on Thursday, November 13th, and the following meeting will be on Monday, November 24th, both at 6:30 p.m. here at the Municipal Center. With that, we have no non-public business tonight, so if there is no other business, I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
First by Jason,
Second.
second by Jen. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Good night, everyone.